Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Luis. I'm a third year medical student from the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health, and welcome to Med School Deep Dive, where I interview different medical students from different med schools around the Philippines about their experiences of being a student in their respective med school. But before we start this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe as it really does support the channel. And with that out of the way, let's start the video. So hey guys, now I'm joined by Nadine. Nadine, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi everyone. My name is Nadine Puti-an and I am from PLM or Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila College of Medicine, and I am currently in my third year of med. So my undergrad was biochem from UST.
Okay. So to kick things off, Nadine, why did you decide to pursue your medical education at PLM?
Okay, so originally I really had no intention of pursuing med. Like I wish I was one of those people that knew from the beginning that they were gonna be a doctor, but that wasn't me. So it was really like a last minute thing. So I only applied for two med schools when I was in undergrad. So UERM and PLM.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time na I decided that okay, I wanna med, parang UERM was closed. And then that was when the PLM results went out. And then when it went out, that was the only time I decided na okay, PLM. So that's why I went to PLM.
Okay, so like that's what prevented you from like applying to your alma mater, so like from applying to UST, because I know UST is one of the earlier schools that
Yeah, it is.
closed.
But then like I don't know, because I really had no intentions of going to med. So I didn't apply for UST na. And then
Mm-hmm.
at that time, like I just wanted to see if I could get in. That's why I only applied to UERM and PLM. And because I'm a Manila resident then, that's why
Mm-hmm.
if I do pass PLM, I'm gonna be automatically a scholar. So if I do decide to go to PLM, financially it would reduce the burden. That's also why I applied to PLM.
Okay, so what ultimately made you decide to pursue med? Because like obviously you got in, but like what pushed you to to stay?
Um, yeah, like so when I got in med, it was really hard, and I really wasn't mentally prepared for it. Like there were people who were studying for it, and then for NMAT they really studied hard. When I took my NMAT, I just took it for fun, parang ganon. So mentally, I really wasn't prepared. But then I think for me, the satisfaction of like going through something that's hard and then getting through it or like achieving your goal was in itself a reward. That's why I decided to stay in med and to see like how farther I can go. But then now, the more that we delve into more clinical subjects and like the more we have more patient interactions and listening to our prof stories about healing people, I think that's also what pushed me to stay because I think I really like taking care of people then. So yeah.
Okay. So having studied in PLM for 3 years, like on your third year now, what's like the curriculum like? Because I know there's like two major like majority of the schools here in the Philippines follow the traditional route where it's very subject based, and then there are schools naman that are modular, like my school where it's organ system integrated.
Mm-hmm. So for us, it's subject based then. So it's not like with you guys na module. I think both have their advantages, but I would prefer the module based ones because like in first year, for example, in in physio we were studying renal and then histo it was still GI. So like it would
Mm.
get confusing. But yeah. So we're the more traditional subject based.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I find that's a complaint also with like UST because
Mm-hmm.
they like there's the base isn't exactly the same per subject, but I guess like there are schools that are subject based that kind of mitigate that by doing the block system where like it's still subject based, but like for the blocks it's only a certain organ system, so it's even though the grades are separate per subject, the pacing of all the different subjects is still within the same organ system. So
Yeah. For us, well, nung first year, it was really there were times where the topics would get really separated. But I think as we progressed, like second year and third year, parang our topics become more aligned. So it's definitely more easier now compared to before. But I think our profs, they really try as much as they can to align everything so it won't be as difficult.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So, given that you're in the traditional curriculum, I assume that you follow the like the midterm final exam schedule, where like
Mhm.
you have like an exam week. I think like once a month, because I think most of the traditional med schools follow that exam schedule.
Yeah, we have so the way it works is we have 4 shifts and then it's spread out through the entire academic year. So for first sem we have first and second shift. And then for second sem we had third and fourth and then we have finals. So like per shift we have our shifting exams or major exams. But then like within each shift we usually have one or two long quizzes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is your finals like cumulative for the year? So like comprehensive, everything from day one. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
like that. Yeah.
Okay, so with regards to clinical experience, one thing I see is a major difference among the medical schools is that it when they start teaching their students the basic clinical skills varies from school to school. So for like in my school, we started learning basic history taking and some to a certain degree OSCE skills in first year pa lang, but other schools start going into the OSCE skills usually in second year. So with regards to PLM, where do you guys fall in that spectrum?
So for us, we started history taking in physical exam second year then.
Mhm.
And then yeah, and then now parang it gets more specific as you go on the year. So first year it wasn't there wasn't really much of clinical experience. It was mostly classroom instruction.
So
Yeah.
like more on the theory lang, than
Yeah,
less on
more
the
theory.
application.
Yeah, it was all like fish or biochem. There was not much clinical
Mm,
experience.
okay. So in addition to that, like, how would you describe the teaching philosophy of your school? Are you guys more lecture based, or is there more like self-directed learning involved?
So our school, we have this thing called outcomes-based learning. So it's really up to us to study. And the thing that our profs always emphasize is they don't want to spoon feed us or anything. So like for first year, we only had from the major subjects, it was only physio and biochem that had lectures done by profs. Like everything else was reporting. So for anatomy, we had each group was assigned to do a report and then basically they would deliver the lecture. And it was also like that for histo and neuro. And then what the profs would do is they just like correct information if during the report there was wrong info and they give feedback. So
Mm,
it's really up to us to study. But now that the subjects are more complex like surgery or pedia or OB, it's profs that give a lecture but then they don't lecture everything. Parang they lecture the important parts and they always say na it's up to you to read more in this stuff like that.
okay, so despite that, do your profs tend to still make questions even like based on um, information that they didn't necessarily lecture, that they expected you to read Harrison's or Robbins, so like they will lift questions from the book and not just necessarily from their lecture.
Sadly, yeah, we have profs like that. But then we also have profs naman that just get questions from the lecture. But then I think most of our profs, they're really book based. And then the way they structure their questions isn't like recall. It's really case basis and it applies critical thinking. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Okay, so beyond like the classroom setting and like the typical reporting of your in with of your classmates, like are there other resources and opportunities for you to learn besides just that? So like such as research assistance jobs, or does the school allow you to take your clinical electives abroad during clerkship?
Oh, as far as I know, we don't have opportunities like that, sadly. So yeah.
Mm, okay. Okay, so with the obvious shift, like with the shift to online classes, like, what are the some of the challenges that you face with this transition to the distance learning, and what have you done to face those challenges?
I think one thing that for me is really challenging is being away from like my support system. I mean, we talk to each other on chat and stuff like that, but it's still different when you're with your friends who like you can vent out to or rant about and who you can study with, more importantly. So that's been hard. And also with online learning. Um it's hard because med is a very skill based, it's a very skill based field, and it's hard to visualize what our profs are talking about, like without the actual demonstration. And for me, what really helped was the return demos that we did nung second year, where we would also have to do the skill back, and that's when you know na okay, I know this skill. But then now, because there's nothing like that, it's hard. And then compared to before, we would actually go to the wards. Like for med, we were supposed to really interview patients and perform the physical exam skills on them. But then now it's all simulated. So our profs would act as patients, and instead of actually performing the physical exam, you'd say, "Okay, I want to do this maneuver," and then they just give the physical exam finding. So I think that's setting me back a little on the medical knowledge I'm supposed to know, especially since next year's already clerkship. So yeah, that's been hard.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. That especially now, it's like both of us are in our last preclinical
Mm-hmm.
year. It's gonna be hard to transition to clerkship like once we do, because we spent basically a year just in our houses and not really practicing our clinical skills. And it's different than like talaga when you don't get to practice it. Like you know the you like you can know the theory, but
Mm-hmm.
like actually doing it is like a completely different thing talaga.
Yeah, that's true. And then like there are memes on the internet. It's like, oh, you're gonna have a doctor who learned everything online, and I laugh, but then inside I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. That might
Yeah,
be. So yeah,
it's like having a surgeon who learned how to perform surgery playing surgeon simulator. It's
yeah, the
it's
bad.
it's like that.
It's really not ideal.
Yeah. So having studied in med school now for 3 years, is like, and like you stated naman that you had originally no intention of pursuing a career in medicine. What advice can you give to med students who are kind of in the same who are in the same boat as you, and are like kind of on the edge of whether considering whether or not to pursue medicine, or are like in medicine but are having their doubts about it.
Well, for me, I think it's really important to ask yourself if you really want to continue med, because it's really a lifelong commitment, I think. And it's hard if your heart's not 100% in it. I think you're gonna have a difficult time, especially since if you want to specialize pa, you really have a really long and like tough road ahead. So I think I got lucky na I realized na okay, I really want to be a doctor. But for those people, I think it's really important for them to ask, do I really want this? And if they find in their examination that maybe they don't, I think there's nothing wrong with trying a different path, because it's better than being stuck in something that you're not that happy about. So yeah.
Yeah, because one thing that I think that's common amongst the med students who do stay is that they have a why for like they have like a reason for staying, and I because like med is like inherently hard. It's like no matter how smart you are, it's a very hard like path to take, and it's something like you need to have a reason like beyond some like external factors like the glitz and glamour of what that comes to being a doctor. But I think like it's important to have like that internal aspect of like, oh, I want to do this for like because I want to help people. And I think like for having that something to focus on, that intrinsic motivation, I think will help most people get through the tough times in med.
Yeah, that's super true. I agree.
Okay. So moving on now to life naman outside the classroom. Like how would you describe the campus culture of PLM?
With because we're a pretty small community, I think. So each year we only have four sections. For first and second year we have four sections, and then third year we have two. So like it's a pretty small community. So usually like we kind of know everyone, and like when we talk about people, we refer to them by their first name. like regardless of the year, and we would automatically know who that person is. Like that's how small the community is. So it's that's the kind of vibe there. It's like a community talaga. So yeah, and then we also have orgs if you're interested in that. Like yeah, so there.
So like, what are the types of orgs that are available? Because like I know that PLM is like really into med rhythmia and med groove. I think like you're like one of the best schools when it comes to the choral present like the choir singing. I think that you're like you take that really seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a dance core, so that's and then we also have our chorale, our choir. So yeah, you're right. They really do take that seriously. So it's kind of sad na it was postponed this year because of the pandemic. And then we also have our varsity council. So those are the people that join Palaro. And
Mm-hmm.
then we also have so those are for performing arts and sports. But then a lot of our orgs are advocacy. So we have PMSA, Philippine Medical Students Association, and then we also have community doctors, and we also have Likas. So yeah. And then aside from those orgs, we also have our Greek org, so the sororities and that.
After 3 years in the school, like, well, what's one thing about the school that you really like?
So there, well, it's hard. PLM is really hard, but then I think one of the things I like, well, there are two things that I like, I think. So the first one is the way our education is. So because our college was founded by it's subsidized by the city of Manila. So it's a very community based institution. So like our profs, we have our family and community medicine. It's not like a minor subject lang. It's a very important subject for us. And they always emphasize that health shouldn't be like something that exists on its own or is in a vacuum. It's very political, and it affects the way like social class and your access to medicine. That's all affected by how you receive your healthcare. So that's one thing that they always emphasize. So it makes the students that come out from PLM like more empathetic, I think, of the real situation of our country, like our healthcare in the country. And then another thing, as I said earlier, was the community. So because PLM, it's it's a very challenging school. Not everything is spoon fed. Because of that, instead of competing with each other, we foster this kind of environment where we have to help each other instead, so that nobody gets left behind or nobody fails or anything. So I think that's what I love also, the community, the students, definitely the students. Like if we have group works that aren't your that has to be shuffled, I wouldn't be scared to be grouped with anyone because I know that um everyone will give their best and will perform. So I think definitely it's the students that make my PLM experience really good because they're all hardworking, but they don't take themselves too seriously and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree that like having a very tight knit community within med is super important because I think like at the end of the day we're all gonna be working in the clinics together. Like we're all gonna be future colleagues. So like it's better to like have that relationship fostered as early as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree too.
So as a follow up to that, what's one thing you wish your school would add in your like within your remaining stay as a student of the school?
Um, I think it would be really nice if there would be more student spaces like to study because a lot of our time as med students we really spend it studying. So I think it would be nice if they add like spaces for students to be able to study well or to do their reports well or to have like rooms so that we can discuss like if there's a case presentation or something like that. And it's also nice if we would expand our
Mm-hmm.
laboratory facilities and our library facilities as well.
Okay. Okay, so before we end this interview, Nadine, is there and like any message you'd like to promote or like social media or like anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
So I think it's important that, like what I said earlier, we should recognize that health doesn't exist in a vacuum. So it's health is political. So there definitely you we all have to recognize that. So you should join, or well, I would promote my org, so PMSA. So join, and then also I guess I want to give a shout out to my friend and my section 3D. So yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for taking the time to partake in this interview, Nadine, and I hope you wish you all the best in the remainder of the school year.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.